Are you leaving your podcast content on the table? Curious what I mean by that? So are you publishing your podcast each week? I know it's no small feat, but that's where it ends for you. You do nothing more with it. You leave so much potential on the table. That's exactly what I mean. That one episode could become a blog post, emails to nurture your list, social media posts that keep you visible, all without creating anything new from scratch. Now that is absolutely brilliant in my opinion. You're probably thinking, repurposing? Well, that sounds just great. But honestly, I'm happy to be able to keep up with recording, editing, and just the show notes. That's exactly where an Asana content management system comes in. With the right system, you can repurpose one podcast episode into a month of content without adding more stress to your plate. Let's talk about how to build a simple Asana content calendar that makes repurposing that great content easy and repeatable. Here is something that I see time and time again. You've got your podcast running on a schedule. You're consistent. That's huge. I mean, really, that's a huge win. Congratulations. Because in content marketing, consistency matters. But after you hit publish, you move right on to that next episode. But then you wonder, why isn't my podcast driving more traffic or engagement? And you get a little frustrated by the constant churn of putting things out without actually feeling like you're getting anywhere. And here's the missing piece. So your recording and publishing is only half your job. The other half is actually marketing and distributing that content. You've already created something valuable. Now it's actually time to make it work for you. The good news, with the simple Asana content management system, you can set up a workflow that repurposes each episode into multiple pieces of content without starting from scratch every single time. Here's the framework that I use to help entrepreneurs like you get more output out of each one of their episodes. You start with your podcast episode. This is your core piece of content. You can call it long form content, pillar content, any of those names will work. It is your one main piece of content that you put out on a consistent basis, whether that's weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, however it works for you, whatever your consistency schedule is. Then you turn that one podcast episode, you take the transcript and you turn it into a blog post. That blog post is going to be searchable and shareable because you're making sure it's SEO optimized for each piece of content. Now, you have not only one core piece of content or long form piece of content, but you have two pieces of long form content. And remember that long form content means it's around for a long time working your marketing for you. You're going to get 2 to potentially 3 emails depending on how you roll. One to promote that episode or blog post. One that delivers more of a deep dive into those key takeaways. So giving more than you actually would put on the podcast or the blog. And a potentially third, if you want to do a roundup at the end of the month or a monthly recap to promote those episodes again in case somebody missed a previous email or they missed a previous episode. You can have links to all of your episodes that were released that month in that one roll up or recap email that you can send out at the end of the month or at the beginning of the next month, whichever you prefer. And 4, which is my very favorite, and that is 4 to 6 social posts and beyond. Because really, depending on how long your actual podcast episode is or how many more pieces of content you can create from it. Repurposing a podcast episode isn't just about pulling a quote and calling it a day, friends. Here's how to actually break it down into multiple content pieces across your different platforms. You can pull out your quotes. So pulling out those key insights or those impactful statements that you say during your podcast and turning them into social media posts, Instagram carousels, or a Pinterest pin, they work perfect for that. Tips. So share a quick win or an actionable step from that episode. These can be turned into posts for threads, reels, or again, another carousel post. Questions. So use your open-ended questions from the episode to spark engagement. This works well for Instagram stories, LinkedIn posts, or even polls that you may want to put out there. Point of view. I know you've seen these before, those POV posts that are out there. Share your personal take on the episode's topic, why it matters to you, how it connects to your larger target audience, your ideal clients, or how you've applied it in your online business. This builds connection and authority, but you don't have to stop there. You can create audiograms. I love InDescript because it gives you the ability to create an audiogram. So if you're not having a video recording of your podcast, you just have the audio. Audiograms are a great way to be able to take those clips and overlay it with captions and visuals for Instagram or LinkedIn, or potentially YouTube, depending on how you do it. Short form videos, so kind of like your audiogram, but they actually have the video in the background. So if you record a video podcast like this is, you can actually take that and cut it up into different clips. Or you can have your B-roll footage that you record of yourself working in your office or doing things around your home, or however you would want B-roll footage that you would want to use. And then you could pull out those gold nuggets of audio from the podcast and turn them into Reels, TikToks, or even YouTube Shorts. Pinterest pins. And you can do Pinterest video pins as well because they are available. But any quotes, tips, or blog posts that you create from that episode then can become a visual pin to drive that traffic back to your website, or you can drive it directly to the podcast too. I personally always drive it to my website so I can actually track those metrics. The goal is to create a variety of content types that meet your target audience where they actually hang out without needing to reinvent the wheel each and every single time. One episode, many formats that align with your content strategy. How simple is that? This simple structure then turns your one podcast into 7 to 9 different pieces of content that support your visibility and growth. When you repeat that same process week after week, look at all your content. I know that social media gets a bad rap, but it can be effective when it's used correctly and you're reusing what you've already created. But how would you actually build an Asana content calendar template that you can reuse to create your repurposing system? So now I've given you the framework. Let's talk about how to actually build the system that makes it happen. This is where Asana's content management really shines, friends, because your first step is to create an Asana project dedicated to your content creation process, specifically for repurposing your podcast episodes into content pieces like your blog posts, your emails, and those social media posts that we talked about. I've mentioned it before, but if you use AI to help you repurpose your podcast episodes, that's always a great thing to put that prompt in the template so that when you repeat that template, it's always in there. And then if you change that prompt because you redefined it to work even better for your content, then all you have to do is update it in the template. And the next time you go to copy or duplicate it, you'll have that new prompt right there for either you or your team. And I want you to think of this as your content calendar template. So that project management tool that lays out every piece of your content and tasks that's involved. So nothing, absolutely nothing will fall through the cracks, and it will reduce the number of decisions you have to make because you already know what you need to do next. Here's a quick guide to setting it up for you. First, you're going to create your new project in Asana. If you don't have an account, you can go ahead and create a free account. This becomes your Asana content calendar, a well-organized content calendar where you manage your content creation workflows. Number 2 is you're going to build the different sections for each content type. You want to set up a section for the podcast episodes. This is your anchor piece or your core piece of content. Your blog post that's repurposed from the episode. The email to promote and nurture. Your social media posts. So if you're going to do quotes, point of views, engagement, carousels, reels, like any of those things that you want to put in there, you can have all of those different types of content for one social media post. And this keeps your different content types separate and easy to track. And friend, don't forget to put one in there so you remember to track your metrics every single month. And you want to add a task for each piece of content. Under each section, add template tasks to every step in your content creation process. What's your process? How do you do it? Here's an example for a blog post. You're going to have to draft it, edit it, upload it to WordPress, schedule, promote, all of those things. Maybe you create pins or graphics or whatever. Examples for your social media is to pull those quotes, design your graphic, and write captions and actually schedule it. If you're the one that does the editing when you do your podcast episodes, when you're going through it, like with the script, I can highlight text, and that's always a really great way to know that you want to come back. Like I call them a gold nugget piece of your content that you can repurpose later into your social media. You just want to highlight those pieces. And I actually do it in different colors. So for every piece of content that I'm going to pull out, because I might not want to just copy and paste or copy out the whole section at one point in the video, I want to pull bits and pieces of like the really good juicy nuggets out of there. And then you want to assign those due dates and the task status. And if you are not a solo entrepreneur, who's the person that's going to be doing the work besides yourself? And then if you dream of not being the one to do the work in the future, you can always set it up so you know the ones that your team will be taking over at a later date. One of the best parts of using a project management software like Asana is for the ability to set deadlines and track task status. So this gives you the peace of mind knowing what's done and what's still pending out there for you to do. And hey friend, if Asana is not your thing, don't worry. You can do it in other project management systems. It's just key to find the one that actually works for you. With Asana, if you have the paid version, you can have custom fields to actually track the different deadlines or different details. So one of the custom fields that I have in my Asana is just my publish date that I actually publish that podcast episode. I put it right inside that task so we can see and I can filter on that custom field, because you want to add custom fields for things like your content title, type, platform. You can completely do that if you want to do that and have that in one place. I actually do all of that in Notion and have that information in that place versus in Asana. And then I just have my Notion link in my Asana card so that my content VA can just quickly flip back and forth between Notion and Asana. I don't know why. I just like Notion better for my content planning. 6 is you can switch to the calendar view for that visual plan. So if you would like to actually see it laid out on a calendar, Asana has a calendar view. So you can see it in that way. You can actually see it in a calendar, a board view, or maybe a list view. However, it's best for you to see your working tasks at a glance. That will be how you want to view it. Or if you like to view them in all different ways like I do, depending on what I'm doing, you can do that as well. When you have it in your calendar view, this is a great way to actually catch those gaps and prevent any overlaps and ensure you're hitting all your marketing activities across the different platforms. I would like to mention again that if you've tried Asana and it's not for you, try Trello as an Asana alternative, because it can be simpler for some entrepreneurs. I want you to customize your templates to your business goals. So when you're setting up Asana templates for your content calendar, that's a great tool to get organized. But the real power comes from making it fit your content process and your business goals. Once your template tasks are in place, here's how to customize it so it works for your online business and your content strategy. You want to tailor your task list for your different platforms. So if you're repurposing for social media posts, blog posts, or even YouTube videos, make sure your tasks are reflected that on your content creation steps. So for example, your Instagram might need graphics and reels. A blog post needs SEO optimization and readability, along with formatting. And your YouTube, you need some thumbnails and some video descriptions to go along with it. Again, you can use custom fields to add specific details. So you can add your custom fields for your content type, blog, email, social, video, whatever they are, your target audience, whether it's a new lead, warm audience, clients, marketing activities, launch, nurture, visibility, because all of this helps your content creation, content managers, or team leads see what's happening at a glance and focus on what aligns with your business goals. Add due dates that reflect your content cycle. So map out your due dates in a way that gives you breathing room, friend. If maybe your podcast episode goes live on Mondays and your blog post goes live on Wednesdays. There's no rules here. Do it what works for you. Remember, it has to work for you to be consistent, and we're all different. So we're all going to do things a little bit differently. And your social media posts may roll out in the next couple of weeks. That's what I do. I actually don't push everything out that same week, but I kind of trickle out different content, actually not only just for next 2 weeks, but over the next couple of months for all of the different content, so that it just helps to map out and fill up that content calendar. One other thing about your social media, like if you wanted to visually see it, you can put it in the calendar in Asana, which I think is a great place to do it. But if you prefer to be able to set all that up and look, you can also use, more than likely, your social media scheduler to create your content calendar. And then you can assign those relevant tasks to your team members, or you can just assign them to yourself. It depends on what your team actually looks like, and adjust based on your content ideas and needs. Maybe you have a varying length of podcast episodes. You may not need the same workflow. You may not create the same amount of content for each episode. You might want to just be able to delete some of those things out of your template. But if you start with a big template, you can always remove tasks that aren't going to fit into that actual episode. And when you personalize your Asana project, this way you're creating a system that actually supports how you work. It's not about forcing your content creation workflow into somebody else's process. It should always be tweaked for what works for you. It's about building that framework that gives you peace of mind and gets your content out the door and actually spreads the word about your services. How can you use a calendar to stay on track? Because once you have your Asana content calendar set up and customized, it's actually time to lean into one of Asana's greatest tools for content management. And that's the thing that we've been talking about, the calendar view. This powerful tool gives you a bird's eye view of your entire content creation process. You can visually map out your due dates, see where your content pieces are actually scheduled, and ensure that your content marketing team, or just you, is staying on track and up to date. That your calendar view of your content will help you spot gaps and overlays easily, because you're going to be able to see if you have 6 posts for one day for social media when you look at it in a content, or look at your content calendar in a calendar view. You can plan for different types of content across those different platforms, and you can see your content titles and content types if you would like to display it visually as well, to help you ensure you're balancing those different types of content. Again, whether that's your blog post, when your email, or your YouTube, across the different platforms. Again, I just am going to emphasize, be consistent. If you send out emails, send them out on the same day. More than likely, that's a good thing to do, personally, I think. But again, you do you. I'm not going to force you to do something that you can't keep up with. And keep your business goals in focus, because what is the point of your content? The point of your content is to help you build your audience and build that know, like, and trust with people, so that they know what your actual expertise are, because that's going to help bring the people to you that actually want to work with you, and it's going to repel the people that aren't interested in your services. And it gives you a great place to drop in your content ideas. I've talked about this before. You can create a idea log right in Asana, so that you know exactly where to go to look at all those ideas when you're feeling dried up from any creativity. This gives you a well-organized content calendar that feels doable, right? And flexible enough to fit into your specific needs. What are the best practices for sticking to your content process? When you set up your Asana content management system, is one thing. Sticking to it is what actually keeps your content creation workflow running smoothly week after week. There are a few best practices to actually stay consistent without feeling like it's just another thing to manage. Treat your content calendar like a project, not a to-do list. Your Asana project isn't just a place to dump your tasks. It's your collaboration tool, even if you're the only one on your content marketing team, right? Treat it like a living system that helps you manage your content production, keep track of task status, align with your business goals, write down all those little notes that you want to remember the next time that you go to create a piece of content. This is a great place to put it. All the links, don't forget about your links. Schedule time to review your calendar weekly. Block off 15 to 30 minutes each week to review your calendar view. Adjust due dates, check off your completed tasks, and plan for new projects or content ideas. One thing too with Asana, if you have the paid one, I think you might actually be able to do it with the free, but I can't confirm that, is that you can create a form. So if you want to have a form on your website like I do, where you can gather content ideas or get people to ask any questions that people may ask about your content or from your podcast, you can have a form on your website that's an Asana form, and it actually puts a task right in your content management schedule. How nice would that be? Because that helps you prevent any of those last minute things to makes you feel behind or that you're scrambling at the last minute, because nobody likes to feel like they're scrambling at the last minute. And take advantage of those custom fields and those task filters regularly. Whether you're tracking content type, target audience, marketing activity, don't let those custom fields gather dust. Let them work for you and how you want to create your own system. Use filters, review your content pieces by category, by goal. What's the goal? Like, these 5 pieces of content are leading up to this launch or this thing that I'm going to be promoting at this time. Like whether it's you want to be building up your email list during this quarter, so you're having all of that content building up your email list, or you're going to be selling something in the next quarter, so all of your podcasts are leading up to the sale or the launch date or the open date of that product. These are just a couple things to think about. And delegate, delegate, delegate when you can. Remember that you should be focused on the things that only you can do. So if you have the ability to outsource some of that work, that you can take it off of your plate. Working with a content management team, a content manager, or even outsourcing parts of your process. I don't know, maybe repurposing your podcast, just saying. This keeps everyone clear on their role without actually clogging up your inbox with questions, because you can communicate right in your project. So nice. You can communicate in those individual cards. However you would want to do it, you can put it right in there. Even if you're a solo creator or content creator, you can get in the habit right now, and this will just aid in your future growth. And keep it simple and scalable. You do not need to overload your editorial calendar with repetitive tasks or unnecessary steps. Only put the things in there that you will check off. If you have a bunch of garbage tasks in there that you know you're never going to do, don't put it in there. Save it for later. Adjust your template later and put them in when you need it, or you know that you're ready to actually add in those new tasks. Just to help you spark a few ideas of what you can do with your own system, I'm just going to go through and talk about a few ways that you can set up your content calendar. So one, you can have podcast repurposing calendar for a solo creator. If you only are a solo podcast and you don't ever have guests, this could be one that you have just for yourself. Or if you do have guests, then maybe you want to set up a separate process for how the guest is handled, like everything from the intake form to the questions that they would ask, all of their headshots and the information about them. All of that can be put into Asana in your guest calendar. Again, all of the different steps for your content marketing team that they would go through each piece of those and bebop with my content calendar that I have. My column or my sections are actually broken up by the person that is going to do the task, because that's what works for me. I don't know why. It just works better for me to know that I can visually see when something is in my bucket. This is in my column. I know it's my column, because you can actually create little header images if you would want to at the top of those sections or those boards. Maybe it's an image of you, or maybe it's an image of your team. However, and then you would know, depending on what column it's in, who owns that. I just think that personally is a good way for me to do it. But that works for me. Might not work for you. Don't forget, you can actually use Asana to manage your launch campaign too. So if you do a launch on courses, or you only open your services every so many months, then you can use Asana to have a repeatable process for that as well. I've worked with several clients in the past that will have a card for each one of their coaching clients that they have, and then everything that goes along with that client is linked in that Asana card. So they have all of their notes that come after the meeting. That is linked in there, because they'll put a Google Doc with the notes in there, or the action items. You can put the action items in the Asana. You can add in the video link, like anything that has to do with those calls or with your client calls. You can just simply set up an Asana card. Holy moly, friends, I have talked forever today. So it's time to wrap this up. Here's the things. Record your podcast is just the start. Remember, when you build a simple content management system in Asana, you can stretch that one episode into high quality content across all the different platforms without the extra work of starting from scratch every single time. By setting up your content templates with due dates, custom fields, and calendar view, you can create a powerful tool that keeps your content creation process organized and aligned with your business goals. So whether you're managing a full content marketing team or it's just you, this system helps you stay consistent and clear on the very next step that you need to do. Remember the whole philosophy on the headlights. Sometimes it's better to only be able to see that little bit in front of you to not get overwhelmed. But if you're sitting here thinking, I know I should do this, but I just don't have the time to set it up myself, that's where I come in, friend. Don't forget about our repurposing services that we offer. Thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you, and I hope you make it a wonderful week. Yay! Thank you so much for listening. I hope that you found this episode valuable and learned some actionable tips that you can implement in your business so that you can feel accomplished and less stressed. If you enjoyed this show, please take a quick minute to share this with your business bestie, subscribe, and leave a review. It helps me reach more business owners just like you. And if you have any questions or topics you'd like me to cover in future episodes, please reach out to me on my website. I've created a form just for you. Remember, with the right system and mindset, you can achieve the success your heart desires. Thank you for tuning in. I look forward to chatting with you next time. I appreciate you, and I hope you have a wonderful week. And don't forget, let's grow, friends.